The Tower of London, 1546. A woman lies strapped to the rack, her wrists and ankles bound to wooden rollers. Two men, the Lord Chancellor and England's most powerful lawyer personally, turn the wheel. Her shoulders dislocate with audible pops. Her hips tear from their sockets. She screams, but she won't talk. They keep turning. When they're finished, her arms and legs dangle uselessly, destroyed beyond repair. She can't walk, can't stand. Days later, she's carried to a stake in a chair and burned alive. Her crime? Reading the Bible in English and refusing to betray other women. Think religious freedom came peacefully? Think martyrs died quick, noble deaths? The truth is far more brutal. Anne Askew was England's first woman tortured in the Tower of London, then burned at the stake, and she suffered both because she refused to implicate Queen Catherine Parr. This isn't a story about faith triumphing over evil. It's about what happens when the state uses a woman's body as a political weapon, stretching her until her joints explode, then burning what's left as public entertainment. Ready to see Tudor England's darkest hour? Let's go. Beneath the stone chambers of the Tower of London, Anne Askew was dragged into a world from which few returned whole. The year was 1546, and what was about to happen would shock even Tudor England, a society already hardened by executions, burnings, and public torture. Anne had already been tried and condemned for heresy. That should have been the end. But her silence about others, especially the women at court, suspected of sharing her Protestant beliefs, left her inquisitors unsatisfied. Chancellor Thomas Wriothesley and Sir Richard Rich, two of the most powerful men in England, acting under Privy Council's sanction, took an unprecedented step. They would personally oversee the torture of a condemned woman. This wasn't just legally dubious, it was extraordinary, even by Tudor standards. The rack was England's most feared torture device, and it was rarely used on women, never with such direct political intent, never operated by men of such high rank. But Wriothesley and Rich weren't interested in procedure. They wanted names. Specifically, they wanted Anne to implicate ladies at court, perhaps even Queen Catherine Parr herself, in Protestant conspiracy. The rack was deceptively simple, a wooden frame with rollers at each end. The victim's wrists were bound to one roller, ankles to the other. As the interrogator turned the wheel, the rollers moved in opposite directions, slowly pulling the body apart. The pain was immediate and escalating. First came the stretching of muscles and ligaments beyond their natural limits. Then the joints, shoulders, hips, knees, elbows began to separate from their sockets. The sound of dislocating joints was reportedly audible across the chamber. Anne was stripped to her undergarments and strapped to the device. According to her own account, recorded by Protestant chronicler John Bale, she was stretched so violently that her shoulders and hips were torn from their sockets. "They did put me on the rack," she wrote, "because I confessed no ladies or gentlewomen to be of my opinion." The torture began with Wriothesley asking questions. Who shared her beliefs? Which women at court read banned Protestant texts? Who gave her money? Anne refused to answer. Wriothesley ordered the wheel turned. The stretching began slowly, methodically. Anne's body elongated, her spine straightening unnaturally, her limbs pulling away from her torso. The pain was excruciating, a burning, tearing sensation as muscles stretched beyond their breaking point. Still, she refused to speak. Wriothesley grew frustrated. The professional torturer, the lieutenant of the tower, reportedly protested that continuing would kill her or cause permanent damage that would prevent her from standing at execution. Wriothesley dismissed him. Some accounts suggest he actually sent the lieutenant away so he wouldn't witness what came next. Then, Wriothesley and Rich did something almost unheard of. They removed their official robes and personally took control of the rack's wheel. Two of England's highest-ranking officials, working the torture device with their own hands, determined to break a woman who weighed perhaps 110 pounds and could barely fight back. They turned the wheel further. Anne's shoulders dislocated with sickening pops. Her hip joints separated. Her elbows and knees were wrenched beyond their natural range. She described it later. The wheel was turned until the strength in my arms and legs was completely destroyed. The ligaments that held her joints together were torn. The damage was catastrophic and permanent. Still, she gave them nothing. No names, no confessions, no implication of court ladies. Her resolve didn't just frustrate her torturers, it enraged them. This wasn't supposed to happen. The rack broke everyone. Everyone talked eventually. The pain was designed to be unbearable, to override any loyalty, any conviction, any faith. But Anne Askew was different. "I had rather to die," she wrote later, "than to break my faith." In the depths of the tower, in unimaginable agony, with her body literally being torn apart, she made a choice. Her beliefs mattered more than her body. Her loyalty to other Protestant women mattered more than relief from torture. She would not betray them, no matter what was done to her. The torture session lasted hours. When it was finally over, Anne couldn't stand. Her arms hung uselessly at her sides, the shoulders so damaged she couldn't lift them. Her legs wouldn't support her weight, the hip joints destroyed. According to eyewitness accounts, she had to be carried back to her cell, her body so broken that guards literally had to lift and transport her like a piece of furniture. The legal questions surrounding her torture were murky. Torture was technically illegal under English common law without explicit royal consent. Whether Riesley had obtained proper authorization from Henry VIII is unclear from surviving records. What is clear is that Anne Askew's torture blurred the already thin line between judicial process and political persecution. She wasn't tortured for information about her own beliefs, those were already documented. She was tortured to implicate others, to give the crown justification for a broader crackdown on Protestant women at court. But torture failed. It failed to break her will. It failed to extract the names they wanted. It failed to make her compliant. Instead, it created something the crown didn't anticipate, a martyr whose suffering was so extreme, so visibly cruel, that it became propaganda for the very cause they were trying to destroy. When news of her torture spread through London, and it did spread, despite official secrecy, it created outrage, even among those who didn't share her beliefs. The image of two powerful men personally operating the rack on a woman whose trial was already concluded shocked the public conscience. It made her subsequent execution not just a religious statement, but a political scandal. Anne Askew's interrogators hoped the rack would make her compliant. Instead, it immortalized her. The cruelty inflicted on her body only deepened the power of her conviction. And now, with her body destroyed, unable to walk or stand, all that remained was the final spectacle, the public execution that would attempt, one last time, to silence her voice. But the crown wasn't finished with Anne Askew. Her broken body would be displayed one more time, carried to Smithfield to burn as public warning of what happens to women who defy the king's religion. The 16th of July, 1546. Smithfield, London. A crowd of thousands gathers in the summer heat. Nobles in fine clothes, clergy in religious vestments. Common people pressed shoulder to shoulder, craning for a view. They've come to watch heretics burn. But today is different. Today, they're going to watch a woman burn a woman so broken by torture she can't even stand. Anne Askew arrives in a chair, carried by guards. Her arms hang limp at her sides, useless. Her legs can't support her weight. The rack destroyed her body so thoroughly that simply getting her to the execution site required special arrangements. She sits slumped, held upright by ropes and wooden supports. Around her, three men, John Lascelles, John Hadlam, and John Hemley, walk to their own stakes. They're condemned too, fellow Protestants who rejected Catholic doctrine. But it's Anne who draws every eye. She's the first Englishwoman known to be both tortured in the Tower and then burned at the stake. The sheer brutality of her treatment has already circulated through London in whispered conversations. People came today partly for spectacle, partly for horror, and partly because Anne Askew has become something more than a heretic. She's become a symbol of how far the crown will go to enforce religious conformity. At the center of Smithfield's execution ground, 4 wooden stakes rise from stone platforms. At Anne's stake, workers have constructed a special seat, a small wooden chair attached to the stake itself, because she can't stand. They lift her from the carrying chair and strap her to the stake. Chains wrapped around her chest and waist to hold her upright. Her head lolls forward. Her destroyed arms can't grip anything. But her eyes are open, alert, watching. Beneath her feet, executioners stack bundles of wood faggots. They're called dried and seasoned for maximum flame. The wood is arranged carefully. Smaller kindling at the bottom to catch quickly. larger logs above to sustain the burn. The goal is a fire hot enough to kill relatively quickly, but not so explosive that it defeats the purpose of public suffering. This is theater. This is warning. This is the price of heresy.